Welcome to the Data Coffee Break podcast. I'm Marc.
And I'm Christian.
If you are passionate about data like us, take a seat, relax, and join us to our coffee break where we discuss all things data.
And remember, there are no filters, no PR.
It's just a real life experience. So let's begin.
Cheers, Marc.
Cheers. Enjoy. Happy Friday.
Let's get started. Marc, how are you doing?
Very well. Welcome to my house. Well, to my flat, sorry. It's not yet a house. I can't pretend that.
And this is the first time that we are recording live, face-to-face, in person.
Yeah. That's a different experience. Let's see how it's going to work out for us. But it's nice. We can enjoy to have a beer together.
Yeah, it's becoming kind of a habit now. Like we are doing beers while we are
It's supposed to be coffee.
It's supposed to be coffee, yes. So what are we going to discuss today, Marc?
Yeah, so we're going to simply dive into the role of pre-sales in technology companies. Try to understand what is this role, how it differs with maybe what is so well known as consultant or working in support. So really helping people to understand what's expected about this role.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the reasons why are we actually recording this episode is because pre-sales is still a not very well known position or role, right? I mean, personally, I didn't even know that pre-sales existed.
Definitely, in my side is when I went to uni here in the UK for 1 year of master, pretty much a generalist master. I really wanted to go into consulting because that was the excitement of working with different clients, different projects, and learning so many different technologies. And the reality is that in uni, you only hear about consulting. You don't hear about, consulting, being a consultant. You don't hear about what is a support engineer. You don't hear about what is a pre-sales. You don't hear about what could be a technical success manager and things like that. Maybe it's because those roles are actually quite recent, I would say, in some aspects. And that's why I think there is some value to explain a bit more why this could be a fantastic role for so many people.
So let's outline what a pre-sales consultant, a sales engineer, sales consultant, what actually do we do? First of all, we help a salesperson during a sales cycle. So let me just put you in simple words. Company Acme goes to a customer and says, give me $1 million for this product. The company will say, no, please give me that $1 million. The company will say, well, show me that this is going to work with or is going to be useful for me.
That is going to cost less at what is going to bring to the company.
Exactly. So in order to do that demonstration, one big part of what we do as pre-sales is to actually go and demonstrate doing a demo, doing a proof of concept, doing a positioning, business value differentiation, that the solution is going to solve a specific pain point of the customer or a specific challenge. What do you think, Mark? Do you have another one?
I would add some other aspect of this role could be thought leadership. In particular, when you start to have some experience, some level of experience, is more exposed to decision maker, C-level, as we say, and provide thought leadership. So that's really having a conversation high level about trends in the industry, trends in linked to this technology, trends about where the client should invest to make sure they staying ahead of the game, literally, compared to the competition. And so there is this aspect. And another aspect is evangelism. I never know what the perfect way to evangelize the technology, evangelize the service. So that in some aspect is being involved with marketing in this case.
Yes.
When you do some demos to clients, but also to the community of users, or if you're working with the partners, so what could be called channel, you working towards elevating the value proposition of this product, of this technology to the partner community in this case. That's all I see this one.
Yes.
And I would like to actually link back to those different roles internally where you spoke about support, consultant, which in the technology company, in a software vendor is usually called like professional services and pre-sales. What's interesting is those one were in some aspect here before the pre-sales role was even created in the company, was actually known as a pre-sales engineer, pre-sales individual.
Yes, and I can give you my experience, right? I didn't start as support because I was not working for a software vendor company when I left uni. I was working for them at the client side. So I was a developer because that's what at university we get told, right? You're going to be a Java developer back then. Right now, I don't know if it's data scientist or Python, but historically, yes, you needed to go through all of those steps: support or junior developer, delivery or professional services. And after you, I want to quote unquote, did your time, you then go into pre-sales. And I think there was a good reason for that in a way, because you want to, first of all, have empathy with the customer when they're telling you, I have these problems in production, or certain activities are taking me days or weeks to finalize. You went through that problem, or if there's a support case, you know how important that is, and most importantly, and something interesting about pre-sales is that you have experience in multiple technologies, so you can actually try to speak the customer language, not necessarily on the industry, but sometimes even on the technology side. I guess that's my experience on having previous years in the industry before becoming a pre-sales.
Is it a difficult difficult shift to do this kind of from, in your case, you did from software development to pre-sales?
It was because, I mean, once again, we are doing these episodes for people that are perhaps working on that professional services or consultancy to identify if you may want to try a pre-sales role. I was doing pre-sales without knowing it when I was a consultant. I was doing demos. I was talking to customers all the time. I was trying to tell the customer what is the value, and that back then business intelligence, and I didn't really realize that I was having that, or that I had that skill set, until I actually applied for a pre-sales role. And I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't really know what a pre-sales person was supposed to be doing. So I think it took me like a few months to really get it.
So you were going to actually deliver on a project.
Yeah, but for me it was like, okay, so the customer has a problem. Of course, I can try to fix it. That was, might say, my first 6 months. We still do it.
In particular, if you think about the relationship in the long term with this client.
One of the things that a lot of people ask me, how is this different from, for example, other roles such as consultancy or professional services? And pre-sales is competitive. That's a very interesting piece here. And competition, some people can take it in different ways. I personally like this phrase from, I think it was Chesterton, who said that the true soldier fights not because he hates what is in front of him, but because he loves what is behind him. I see a lot of times pre-sales individuals trying to trash other technologies in front of the customer. I don't like that. And I don't think competitive means it's about differentiation. It's about business value proposition that we discussed. And that element of competition and that adrenaline to know whether you are going to be selected at the end of the sales cycle, that is very different from, for example, I have finished my project and I'm going to deploy it into production and see if it works, which is also a lot of the adrenaline rush.
From experience?
Yes, if it's going to work. But I would say that's a key element on the pre-sales side of things. That it might not be for everyone.
Yeah, coming back on the adrenaline rush, moving as a consultant, like doing, okay, this was pre-production or testing and we move that into production.
Yeah.
Do you have this adrenaline rush as doing the pre-sales role in the aspect of, yes, we convince the client today, the value proposition or the technical demo was like successful and the clients really see see like using the technology going forwards? Like, do you have this kind of same feeling as well?
Yes, when you are going to go into a demo, or when you go into a conference and present, or when you're showing the run button on your demo and see if it's going to work.
Yeah,
there's a lot of adrenaline. Yes, I mean, the answer is yes. I do get that all the time. But I think which is another difference between being a consultant for a pre-sales, and I think you touch on that. Mm-hmm. A pre-sales person is customer facing, I would say 99% of the time. Mm-hmm. Right? So that's where you bring the value. Personally speaking, I think a pre-sales person is someone that was not geek enough to be a developer, but not social enough to be a seller.
I love it.
I mean, so I'm not saying that a pre-sales person cannot be a developer, but maybe you didn't like it that much, right? Or you didn't want to go that deep into the role, but also you're not that of a sales person, right? But what do you think about being customer facing? Do you like it, Mark?
Yeah, definitely. It's literally every day you speak with clients. Or potentially meet with clients face to face. So if you're not the extroverted type of person, or in between, like you can say clearly being in between, it also works. That could be a struggle for some people. So that's an aspect to consider.
Something that maybe you need to develop is to be a bit of I think it's called have a thick skin. What I mean is that not every meeting will go well.
Oh yeah.
Not every demo will go well. So sometimes you are doing your best in front of the customer, or you receive what we call objections, and it's objection after objection, and it's fair, right? Sometimes, I mean, the product is or the solution is not for the customer, or sometimes the solution is not working because reasons.
Think back about those events you might have done where the demo is not working, or you can see the audience not being engaged.
Yeah.
You're pretty much like alone in front of everyone and feel like this is not my day.
Exactly.
Or like simply I didn't understood what I should have done, or simply I realize now I should have done it differently in terms of presentation.
Yes, exactly. So when it comes to presenting, to be in front of customers, it's a muscle that you need to develop.
And it could be stressful.
And that can be really stressful. I hope this is not taken the wrong way, but you really need to have good self-confidence to be in front of, or to willing to be in front of an audience. No matter if the audience is just 1, 5, 100,000 people, you have something in your mind that you want to be there, right? So, and I'm not talking about that you are a person that you like to brag, or you are like super or overly confident about yourself, but you
need to enjoy it.
Yes,
you need to literally feel the motivation or the pleasure to have performed on stage. I would say it's kind of like a performance.
Quick one: if you are enjoying this episode and our show, please make sure you follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Links on the description as per usual.
Also, if you'd like to grow this community with us, think about sharing this episode with a friend or a colleague interested about all things data.
Now, back to the episode. When talking about this, not necessarily everything that goes wrong, but it's really important to understand that pre-sales is not support, because as a consultant, you charge by the hour, or your employer charges by the hour for you, right? So your time is really precious. Pre-sales is not the case. And sometimes customers try to see this as, Mark, I have this problem and I cannot actually work in production. What do I do? And because we like to help, we try to fix the problem. And sometimes it's a good thing to do. Don't get me wrong. Go and fix it if you are well versed. But being honest, I mean, that's why support exists, right? So these are individuals 24/7 that they can help you. And
that's quite interesting. Knowing the aspect as well of saying to the client, no, I don't think our solution is a good fit for you. Some account executive will be unhappy, but it comes back to what you stand for. You don't want to create a bad relationship with a client in a sense that the client will come back after a few months and say like, you sold me something that is not working. You sold me something that is actually not solving my issues. So as a pre-sales person, I will say no sometimes in those aspects. But on the other part of the no is saying no to the client. I'm not going to help you. Well, I wouldn't say like that.
Yeah.
But pretty much the aspect like, I understand you have an issue, let's say in production, but I'm not the right person to help you. I prefer to redirect you to our support. I prefer to redirect you to the professional services team who is well equipped. And that's the case. And most of the time is they're trained to do some of those activities compared to us.
I remember a colleague of ours told me once that it's best or it's better not to have a customer than having an unhappy customer. And I think, yes, I mean, to your point, to be able to say no brings your credibility up. And all of this gave me some memories about when I was in consultancy or development, is that pre-sales don't work on production environments. The pre-sales is there to do proof of concepts, to build perhaps demo assets that are not meant to be put in production. Maybe an architecture that is really important, right? Because I mean, as a consultant, you are part of the delivery team that will bring this project into production. So I've met so many pre-sales or solution engineers that they still miss that. They miss that feeling of working towards something that is being used, in production, but it's not something that pre-sales should be working on.
Yeah. Be able to see the outcome of the implementation, basically. That could be frustrating for some pre-sales professional in this case, yeah. And actually, what are the kind of skill sets that are required, asked by companies, by firms hiring pre-sales professional in this case? Like, on the top of my mind, I would say, obviously, team player, being able to have all they call usually, or they describe usually in those job description is sales acumen.
Sales acumen, yeah. I would beg to differ on that one. Sales acumen could be, have you been sold something on the street or something? Yeah, I guess depending on the level of the pre-sales position that you want to go, then of course you might want to have already some experience on a sales role.
Luckily, I never heard anyone in pre-sales having during the job interview being asked to sell a pen to the interviewers.
I know.
That may be more for the account executive and salespeople.
Exactly. Now, I do believe that you need to have some tech experience, right? Whether that is coding or previous experience with the product or the technology, for example, at the database or ETL on data or visualization. Something really important for those looking for a pre-sales role or that are wondering whether they could be a good fit for a specific company. And I'm going to talk about here on a product company. You don't need to necessarily have experience with the product. When you go and work for those companies, they will train you properly on the product. Sometimes it's more important that you have experience on a specific industry, on a competitor product or similar product. And also, as you mentioned, acumen on the domain, AI, data warehousing, visualization. I would say that skill to be more a generalist person that can talk about a domain, it's a good skill to have.
Yeah. And as you said, like not looking into being able to know this specific technology, but those transferable skills are important. And we call that a lot soft skills.
Yeah.
This is a tag I don't like.
Well, and to finalize this part of the skills that we recommend you having or developing is creativity, or you have that creative thinking on around a specific problem, or you can imagine how things are going to be used. That is an amazing skill to have as a pre-sales person. Again, doesn't have to be technical.
Yeah, creativity, and that's usually associated with a keyword like problem solving in this aspect, where the client come with a question, you know that the product doesn't answer directly, but if you think about it in different aspects, if you maybe mix it with another set of technologies, you see that it's actually really solving well the kind of issues the client is facing, and sometimes bringing even more value for the client on that aspect.
100%. One thing that I would say is as well is that, especially with software or technology companies, is that a lot of people, myself included, when I left university, we have this idea that you have to be super technical or a genius to get into one of these companies. And by all means, if you're one of those, go for it. But there are also other roles that may not require highly technical skills, and you can still work for the company that you love.
I love what you just said, like working for the company that you love. Do you think, is it companies that you love or products that you love in this case, in both aspects?
You really need to believe what you are actually trying to bring into the customer's hands. If you don't believe in the product or in the company that you're working for, and that may apply for any type of role, but in pre-sales is actually quite important because you are all the time interacting with people in multiple situations that are linked to a sale. I really believe that you need to love or really like.
Loving, maybe, but at least liking, enjoying.
Love can be a very strong word
in this case. Christian, is there anything you don't like about pre-sales?
Oof, maybe it's the beer or something. I'm going to be a bit personal here. I'm going to generalize here. It's not something that you may encounter, but a commercial discussion sometimes takes precedent over what is really important for the customer. And what I am going to give an example here is like when you see that the company or the people in the field really will benefit from your solution, but because there is no commercial agreement or there are some other interests. This is one of those that it's better when you don't know that they exist. You know what I mean? So that is something that, because as a person that cares, it's difficult to be detached from it. So that's the part that sometimes I don't enjoy. But what about you?
It will be, I think it's a common theme when I actually speak with a lot of colleagues or also pre-sales professional. The classic having to fill RFPs and RFI.
Yeah.
So request for proposal for RFP and request for information. That's basically...
Oh my God. Yes.
That's basically a document, an Excel document, a Word document, or PDF simply, that the client is sending to the company and many other companies to compare the products on very specifically defined criterias. And that's extremely boring to complete, to feel. And that's complex, actually.
It's complex. For those that have never seen an RFP, normally it comes as a big Excel file with a bank of questions that someone copy-pasted from.
Sometimes completely irrelevant.
And they ask you yes, no, or with a link to propose. And yes, it's very boring. So, Mark, would you say that you like the pre-sales role? What do you like about it? If I would ask you, like, okay, so what does Mark like?
What does Mark like here?
Like about pre-sales, yes.
I think it's good to go back to what we discussed at some point, maybe at the beginning or in the middle, which is being client-facing, being able to expose to the client the value of the product, having the opportunity to present to an audience, all those aspects where you were speaking about this adrenaline rush in terms of a consultant, a developer moving a piece of technology from testing to production. This is the same kind of feeling that you can get being in front of the client or proposing to the client. And this is what excites me. So this kind of pre-sale, salesy aspect. And generally, like seeing the happiness of the client sometimes on this aspect. Yeah. This is so cool. I just love it.
Yeah. When you were talking about what you don't like, you just reminded me that a couple of more skills that are essential for pre-sales, such as time management.
Oh, yeah, very true. Wow, that's in particular in some part of the quarter. Yeah, it's super important.
But I think we can finish here and leave time management tips for another episode.
Well, that was a very interesting episode. And I actually discovered so many aspects of your personality with this episode, Christian.
Same here, Mark. Thanks for listening to this episode. This podcast represents our views and not the ones of our employers.
Our mission at the Data Coffee Break podcast is to inform you and help you grow in this always changing data field.
Follow us and get into the conversation with the community on our LinkedIn page and Instagram.
See you next Tuesday, and until then, keep your data caffeinated.